Hey, this is Roaming Millennial, but first, I'd like to thank our sponsors Noble Gold.
Sponsored content, yay!
Now, as the entire world knows by now, recently the Trump administration announced that they would officially be recognizing Jerusalem as the capital of Israel. Controversial stuff.
Yes, because this could cause war.
We will remember it when we are called upon to once again make the world's largest contribution to the United Nations.
Ooh, that gave me shivers. And then as a Christmas present to the American taxpayer, and much to my delight, Haley did announce that $285 million would be cut from the UN budget next year.
The UN budget relies on large GDP countries like the United States to keep the world a safer place through UN peacekeeping missions, which cost money, to aid programs that help those who are most needy in the world. But you go for it, cut away. The poor will suffer.
You should watch it. So the first issue I have with the UN is that it is extremely expensive. Like extremely expensive.
Again, the UN budget is large because of the different roles it fulfills. The US makes up around 20% of the UN budget. The US also accounts for 25% of the world's GDP. The amount each country pays is corresponding to its GDP.
But really, does the world need to be funding groups like the United Nations Group of Experts on Geographical Names? Or the Universal Postal Union?
Let's be honest. The amount they get from the UN budget is going to be minute. The group of geographic names meets every 5 years to standardize geographical names. This is largely to combat language barrier difficulties so international agencies can communicate effectively.
He's charged with taking $1.2 million in bribes from a single person. But don't worry, I guess he got his comeuppance because a few months later, he was found dead in his home after apparently dropping a barbell on his neck. Yep, that's not sketchy at all. Nothing to see here, totally fine, probably legit.
A conspiracy theory. Nice. Really negates any argument you make here in this entire video. By implying that the guy was killed by the deep state, you lose all credibility.
But when was the last time the UN talked about how it could improve the lives of Europeans or Americans?
Lol, what?
Citing Germany, Sweden, the United States, and Brazil, kind of oddly enough for me at least, as the best places to send these people, even though they don't share a language, religion, or culture. Strange.
What is your point here?
I have made it very clear in the past that I do not support the resettlement of refugees as the solution to regional conflicts and economic development issues. A, it doesn't make the countries having problems any better, and B, refugees are absolutely a net negative on host nations in terms of cost, crime, and cultural issues. I'm sorry, but if the UN really cared about Western countries, they wouldn't support policies that lead to essentially the entirety of Sweden becoming one large no-go zone.
So many things here. Firstly, Sweden isn't one large no-go zone. This is demonstrably false. Secondly, a recent report performed by the Centre for Economic Reform at the London School of Economics concluded that migrants and refugees do not push wages down or unemployment up. A University College London report found that the net fiscal contributions from migrants between 2001 and 2011 was around £5 billion. Your other arguments about cultural issues is ridiculous.
By design, the Security Council is subject to the whims and fancy of countries like China and Russia. Is there any scenario in which China would actually approve of military action against Red Brother North Korea?
The Security Council doesn't have to approve of military action. The United States could launch an attack right now. China and Russia are major powers in the world. If they were not at the table, then they would be elsewhere, potentially causing issues rather than being at the table with countries that maybe relationships can be built from.